Stories number 1. My husband wanted a divorce, until he lost his job. Aita for filing anyway. Hi Reddit, throwaway because some family lurks here. I 38F, let's call me Rachel, have been married to my husband 34M, Jason for 6 years, together for 9. Between us, we have a blended family of 5 kids. 3 are mine from a previous relationship, all minors. Jason and I have a 1-year-old son together, and my oldest daughter 17, Emily, is from my previous marriage. I love my kids more than anything, and honestly, I've bent myself in half trying to hold this family together. But Jason? He's made it hell. The postpartum year from hell. After our son Ethan was born, I was about 10 months postpartum, juggling, recovering from pregnancy, adjusting to a newborn, taking care of 4 other kids, working a full-time, 40-hour-week job, trying to keep the house from falling apart. And what did Jason do? He started calling me fat and lazy. He'd say things like, "All you do is take care of the baby and sit around. You're not even trying to look good anymore." Meanwhile, he'd lock himself in his game room, his little man cave with a massive PC setup for hours, sometimes all night, playing online with his buddies instead of helping. On my birthday, I had to take my daughter Emily to UCLA for a dental appointment. Jason flat out told me, "If you leave the house today, I'll divorce you." I went anyway because, it's my kid's health. What was I supposed to do? He didn't even say happy birthday. He slept in his game room that night and basically moved in there full time. That was 2 months ago. The divorce bombshell. Jason didn't just sulk. He actually told people, his family, his friends, that he was divorcing me before he even sat me down to say it. He contacted an attorney. He told me to my face, "You're not the prize. I'm the prize. I'm 34, in my prime, I make good money. Women would line up to be in your shoes, taking care of my kids. You're almost 40, you've got 4 kids. Nobody's checking for you." I can't even explain how gutting it is to hear that from your husband. And then, the cherry on top, he invited his baby mama from before we got together over to the house while I wasn't home. I came back to find her in my living room, playing with the kids. It felt like he was spitting in my face. The job loss. Fast forward to a month ago, Jason lost his job. Suddenly the divorce talk quieted down. Suddenly he wasn't the prize. Now he's talking nicer, coming out of the game room more, making family dinners, saying things like, "I think we can work this out, Ratch." I was stressed. I wasn't myself. But it feels fake. Like he only wants me around now because I'm his safety net. He knows my income covers bills, he knows I'm steady, and he knows he doesn't have anyone else to fall back on. I told him, "Jason, I'm still moving out. I'm still filing. Your actions didn't show a man who wants his marriage. They showed a man who thinks I'm disposable." The smear campaign. Now he's telling anyone who will listen that I'm a gold digger. That as soon as he lost his job, I decided to leave him. That he wanted to try and work things out, but I'm the one walking away. His mom Linda actually called me crying, saying, "Jason told me you're leaving him now that he's unemployed. How could you do this to him?" His sister Megan posted a passive-aggressive Facebook status about how some women only stick around for the money. Meanwhile, I've got screenshots, texts, and receipts of Jason telling me he was divorcing me, calling me fat, saying I'm not the prize, and making me feel like nothing. Where I'm at, I've spoken to a lawyer. I've started the process of separation. I told Jason he can spin the story however he wants, but I'm not staying married to someone who belittles me, cheats emotional boundaries with his ex, and only wants me when he's desperate. My kids deserve better. I deserve better. Still, part of me feels guilty. I've spent almost a decade with this man. Walking away isn't easy. And everyone keeps repeating, family comes first. Marriage is about sacrifice. Be there in the hard times. But wasn't I already there during the hardest times? Postpartum, 5 kids, full-time job, no help, emotional abuse. So Reddit, Aita for following through with the divorce even though he lost his job and is suddenly being nice. Update, my husband wanted a divorce, until he lost his job. Aita for filing anyway. Hi again, Reddit. I didn't expect my post to blow up, but since so many people asked for an update, here it is. So, I filed. I officially filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. I was nervous walking into the courthouse, but when I left, I felt this massive weight lift off me. I called my best friend Kelly, 39F, on the way home and just sobbed in relief. Jason? He didn't take it well. The confrontation. When I told him the papers were filed, he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're really going to ruin this family because I lost my job?" I told him, "No, Jason. You ruined this family long before you lost your job. I'm just finally following through." He went off, pacing around the kitchen, saying, "You're selfish. You'll regret this. No man is ever going to want you with all those kids." Then, and I'm not kidding, he said, "If you think you're getting the house, you're delusional. For the record, the house is in my name only. I bought it before we were married. His name isn't on the mortgage or the deed. My lawyer Mr. Thomas, 50s confirmed he has no claim to it." The smear campaign gets worse. Remember how Jason was already telling people I'm a gold digger? He cranked that up to 100. His mom Linda left me a voicemail crying about how Jason's going to end up homeless and how could you do this when he needs you the most. His sister Megan tagged me in a Facebook post about women who abandon their men when times get tough. One of Jason's old friends Mark, 35M actually messaged me, saying, "Damn, Ratch. He's really down bad. Just give him another chance." I sent Mark screenshots of Jason's texts where he told me he was divorcing me, told me I wasn't the prize, and bragged about having other women who would line up for him. Mark just replied, "Wow, didn't know all that. My bad." The baby mama situation. And because it wouldn't be my life without more drama. Jason's baby mama Ashley actually reached out to me. She messaged me on Instagram and said, "I don't know what Jason's telling you, but I don't want him. He invited me over that day to hang out with the kids. I thought you knew." I didn't even know what to say. I don't blame Ashley, she's been through her own hell with Jason. But it made me even angrier that he would bring her into my house without telling me, and then try to use her to humiliate me. The kids. My oldest daughter Emily has been my rock. She actually told Jason off one night. He tried to guilt-trip her, saying, "Your mom is tearing this family apart." And Emily, my amazing, brave 17-year-old, said, "No, Dad. You tore it apart when you started treating her like garbage." Jason was stunned. He muttered something about her being brainwashed and stormed back into his game room. The younger kids don't really understand what's happening, but they sense the tension. I've been careful not to badmouth Jason in front of them, but I think they see more than I realize. Where things stand. Right now, I filed for divorce. Jason is still unemployed. He's still living in the game room, but my lawyer is helping me push for a temporary order so I can have full control of the house until the divorce is final. His family is furious with me, but I honestly don't care anymore. I'm exhausted, but I feel stronger than I've felt in years. I know this is going to be a long, ugly process, but at least I'm not stuck waiting for him to decide when I'm worthy of love. That's where things are now. I'll keep updating if people want to hear more, but for now, I'm just taking it one step at a time. Final update, my husband wanted a divorce, until he lost his job. Aita for filing anyway. Hey Reddit, back one last time. I promised I'd share how everything ended, so here's the final update. The divorce is final. After months of back and forth, court hearings, and more tears than I want to admit, the divorce was finalized last week. Jason fought me on everything. He tried to claim part of the house, even though it's legally mine. He tried to push for 50-50 custody, even though he barely spends real time with the kids. At one point, he even tried to argue that I owed him spousal support because I convinced him to quit his job. He was fired, for the record. The judge didn't buy his act. I got primary custody of the kids, with Jason having visitation every other weekend. The house stays with me. No spousal support was awarded to him. Jason's behavior in court. Jason embarrassed himself in court. He came in acting like he was the victim, rambling about how I abandoned him when he was down. My lawyer calmly presented text messages, screenshots, and witness statements showing he'd been telling people for months he was divorcing me. He'd been verbally abusive, calling me fat and lazy while I was postpartum. He'd openly invited his baby mama over behind my back. The judge actually told him during one hearing, "Sir, this is not about your pride. This is about your children's best interests." I almost cried when I heard that. The kids. Emily 17 has been my anchor through this. She's already planning to stay close when she goes off to college next year, because she doesn't trust Jason to step up when he has the kids on his weekends. My younger kids are adjusting. They miss having dad around every day, but they've also told me the house feels calmer now. That broke my heart, realizing they noticed the tension even when I thought I was shielding them. Jason's family. Oh, boy. Linda Emael hasn't spoken to me since the court ruling. She sent me one last text saying, "You ruined my son's life. I hope you're happy." Megan Sil is still posting cryptic Facebook rants about betrayal and fake women. I muted her. The only surprising twist. Jason's own dad Robert pulled me aside after the last hearing and said, "You did the right thing. He needs to grow up, and maybe this is what finally makes him." That floored me. Jason is not doing great. He's bouncing between temp jobs and living with a friend. From what I've heard, he's still telling anyone who will listen that I'm a gold digger who left him the second he lost his job. The irony is that I'm supporting myself and the kids entirely on my income and savings. Meanwhile, he's the one asking his mom for rent money. Ashley, the baby mama, even reached out again and said, "I'm sorry he's dragging you like this. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing." That meant more to me than she probably realized. Me now, I won't pretend this was easy. Divorce sucks, even when it's the right choice. But I finally feel like I can breathe again. The kids and I have a routine that works. I've started therapy, and it's helping me rebuild my confidence. On my birthday this year, Kelly threw me a little party, and for the first time in years, I felt celebrated. I'm not ready to even think about dating again, but I'm hopeful about the future. Final thoughts. When I made my first post, I was terrified I was the asshole for following through with the divorce after Jason lost his job. But the truth is, he made his choice long before that. He wanted out until life humbled him, and then he only wanted me because I was his safety net. I deserve better than being someone's last resort. So no, I'm not the asshole. I'm just finally free. TLDR, I filed for divorce. Jason tried to fight me on everything, but the court sided with me. I kept the house, got primary custody, and no spousal support was awarded. His smear campaign failed, his family is still bitter, but I'm focusing on my kids and rebuilding my life. I'm not his safety net anymore. Stories number 2. Aita for getting angry at my foster mother's way of fixing me. Okay, so I 17M have lived with foster carers and 38F and Bill 40M for 11 years. The reason I was put into foster care is because of the death of my younger baby sister 14 months when I was 4. To put it lightly, it wasn't exactly natural causes, and was caused by a bio parent, if you get what I'm trying to say. And I can vividly remember everything around those circumstances, think about it every day and mourn the loss of my sister. The thing is, this has caused a rather intense reaction to young children. I can't be around kids under the age of 4 approximately without having panic attacks, flashbacks, or screaming fits. I've tried to get professional help, but counselors say they aren't trained enough to help me, and therapists have extremely long waiting lists. Neither social services nor my carers are willing to pay for private therapy, and I can't afford it on my part-time job. The issue was also mocked by my family for a while, since they didn't know the exact circumstances of me going into care, so for years they would trigger me on purpose because they thought it was funny. I've tried building up a tolerance by watching YouTube videos, but it isn't much help, although I am almost completely functional in public now. I wasn't until about January this year. In the last few years, the siblings of both Ann and Bill have had babies. 2 to each sibling, 6 babies total, all under the age of 4, currently the oldest being 3. I can't see these children, so usually end up in a back room somewhere or on the streets walking circles when we go to see the kids / they come to us. And Ann's mom have decided that since I'm nearly an adult now, it's time for me to grow up and fix myself, because it's awkward to have a kid that can't see the babies. So over the last 2 years they've begun lying to me. They would take me out, saying we're going one place, then go to the baby's house. They'd then get angry when I'd have panic attacks. Every Christmas they'll say the babies aren't coming round, then shove the babies in my face and get angry when I remove myself from the room, saying I'm ruining Christmas. We'll go to other relatives' houses and then pretend they told me all along that the babies were going to be there. I don't mind going as much, it's just the fact they won't tell me means I'm usually unprepared. For example, one winter I ended up going for a walk in below zero temperatures in a t-shirt because I was told we were going to my uncle's, which has rooms I can go in to avoid babies, but we ended up at Ann's brother's, which doesn't have rooms I can go in. I also got in trouble that time for showing and up in front of extended family for my reaction to the babies, aka 3 panic attacks back to back, which is why I then spent hours in the cold. They also didn't tell me another relative was pregnant until she had the baby and we were going to see it. They told me on the car journey to the hospital. I found out today that all this has been part of a plan to secretly try fix my phobia because I'm getting too old for being scared of babies. I've also been told I'm being pathetic, overreacting, being offensive and disturbing the mothers. I got mad. It's not my fault I witnessed the tragedy of my sister's death when I was so young, and lying to me about it only causes me more issues. And said I'm being an awe. So, Aita. Edit, thank you to everyone who's commented. I wasn't expecting such a response to be honest, and it made me cry a bit because sometimes I feel like I'm going mad. I will book an appointment with a GP soon. I'm getting a new social worker and an advocate soon, so we'll talk to them too. I have a job already, but the pay is very minimal, so I'm trying to get a couple more for over the summer, but finding jobs is quite difficult. I am saving to try get out. If it gets far worse than this, I have a friend who will let me stay at hers, but her place is small, so it's not the best long term. I'm not sure what will happen from here. Updates will probably be slow, if any. Edit 2, I also feel quite guilty going against my carers because it feels like I owe them. But there's other stuff that's happened too in the last year that could be said to be worse than this, so really it does need reporting. However, A denies all constantly and doesn't believe she's ever in the wrong. She's never apologized for anything. Not really sure how she'd react to me reporting this. Edit 3, today I get to spend 4 hours on a desk chair crammed in a random corner because the bed I'm staying in at Bill's parents' has the cot next to it and the babies are visiting. Edit 4, and I've been kicked out because I'm invading in space. Right after a lecture where she blamed me for my fear. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA, hope you are saving up so you can move out when you turn 18. I understand them wanting to help you, but they are not doing it the right way. Yes, you should be around kids without having panic attacks. Surprising you with a baby clearly isn't working. Reply, I'm trying. I've got a friend I can move in with if things get real bad, but for now I kinda walk on eggshells. There's more that's not in this post. I'm trying to get a couple more jobs so I can save faster. I've never felt so validated. I thought I was insane for my fear. Commenter 2, NTA. Severe phobias need controlled exposure therapy and possibly medication, with the key word being controlled. Tricking you into seeing these children is the opposite of helping. This seems more like emotional abuse. You shouldn't have to go into the details of your trauma for your foster parents to respect it. I would talk to social services about this to try to get your foster parents to give you the option whether or not to see these kids rather than subjecting everyone to a bad time. Reply, I'm hopefully being assigned an advocate soon. They overlooked me. I was meant to be assigned one at 16. My social worker isn't very good. I've brought this stuff up before and she wrote it down wrong and then believed carer's denial and is leaving for maternity in a couple weeks. Can OOP talk with his social worker about this situation? Reply, my social worker isn't very good. It's been brought up before. Kuth contacted her over a different situation that was also described as abuse. But she's being replaced soon. I also kind of feel bad reporting it because in some ways I feel some dedication / that I owe my carers for looking after me. But like every day I more and more realize how bad it's been. The last year has been the worst for it. I had a really bad mental health crisis in December because of it. There's other stuff that's happened that hasn't been detailed here. OOP on receiving outside resources. Reply, yeah, I've been on CMHS radar since I was put in care at 4. They gave me some art therapy when I was about 7, but my carers withdrew me from it because it turned me weird, so now I'm in the fight to get back on their list. Been referred for over 2 years now. Commenter 3, to not at all. You have a clear case of PTSD and your foster parent knows it's a real problem, as they knew it was something too big for social workers to handle, and they are purposely triggering you, removing any form of a safe space that you may have by bringing in the little kids. You're a victim in a terrible messed up situation, not an asshole. Reply, they don't want me diagnosed with anything because it'll give me an excuse to not work as hard or something. They withdrew me from art therapy at 7 because it turned me weird, but thank you so much for your comment. It makes me feel a little bit less insane. Commenter 3, these people aren't fit to be fostering IMHO. Reply, yeah, probably. I think they made it into the system easier because their blood relative's cousin and her husband and social like keeping kids with family. OOP responds to a comment on receiving EMDR eye movement desensitization and reprocessing and supplements for mental health and anxiety. Reply, thank you so much for your comment. I'll try the EMDR stuff, hopefully it'll help. I'll also look into supplements to try help. My carers don't like medicating mental health stuff. I've tried asking before, but if I go to a GP they might be able to prescribe me some ick. Where is Bill in all of this? Has OOP spoke with him? Reply, he has a tendency to not stand up to his wife. She also denies a lot to him. There was a situation with some really bad stuff she said to me April 2024 which Bill found out about in October. He was gonna call the social worker about it, but she persuaded him that I was lying to make her look bad. We also had a conversation about 4 hours back wherein tried to accuse me of faking my phobia with Bill present, and all that's happened when I've argued back is that I'm now banned from family holidays. And I got kicked out the house for a few hours. I'm gonna do an update about some of the stuff that's happened in the last 24 hours I think, but at the end of the week once I've also contacted my GP and social worker. Update in comments. On Saturday I had a major argument with my carers. Basically, I was staying at my grandparents' on Bill's side and some babies came over. Usually my safe space in the house away from the kids is the room Ann and Bill were staying in, so I was put in there, on a small desk chair to sit out the day. The room I was sleeping in had the cot and baby changing facilities. However, Ann did not like that it happened to be the room she slept in. So, she had a go at me, saying I was invading her space and kicked me out onto the corridor. Then Bill turned up and they both yelled at me, saying I was faking my fear out of spite because my little brother had been put in the single whilst I had to share with my sister. There's arguments over it, but that's a different story. They also tried to blame my trauma reactions on my grandma. They're not. I went last time I checked. I wasn't the one who fucking unalived baby sister, to which I was kicked out the house and told I'm never seeing my grandparents again / never being brought on a family holiday again. Whilst out I tried to call both my social worker and independent worker, as well as mental health helplines such as Childline, Mind, Papyrus, but none picked up. The helplines were experiencing high demand. Papyrus called back but I was on the coast and they couldn't hear me over the wind. A friend offered to send money for me to get home, but I was in the middle of nowhere with no public transport easily accessible without a long hike. The town grandparents live in is very cut off. Apparently whilst I was out, and asked my sister WTF is wrong with. My granddad ended up taking me out the next day to avoid conflict. Yesterday I was meant to have counseling but my counselor forgot, so I spent an hour sat in the waiting room before deciding to meet up with a friend instead. I ended up dropping out of college this year early. I'm restarting fresh elsewhere next year because of a suicide attempt in December. I decided to do one AS exam so I didn't feel like a complete failure, but I was on reduced timetable to help me recover. So this week is my first week out of college completely. Exams ended. Anyway, today and came home and told me I'm fat because I spent today tidying my room instead of going out. And also yelled at me because when I loaded the dishwasher it was full, so I missed 2 cereal bowls, and that's not good enough for her even though she doesn't do any cleaning around the house. Anyways, I'm pissed off, tired and barely hanging in. Waiting on a callback from my GP so I can get an appointment. Not been a good couple days. Additional information from OOP on whether he has been able to speak with any of his workers. This is gonna be stupid, but I haven't. I'm absolutely terrified of losing my foster dad tbh. I've spent all week putting it off. But I spoke to my friend's adoptive mother who had been a foster carer for a good decade, and she says if I don't do it, she'll report them. Or I at least need to talk to my foster dad about it and tell him how bad the situation is. She's angry that I'm not in actual therapy, because apparently my carers get money that's supposed to go on stuff like that and like everything else too. With the training she gets she should know not to say half the shit she does. I spoke to my siblings. Both siblings confirm now independently that they've heard plans to force expose me to babies to try to fix me. If necessary I can get statements from friends. I have a quite decent backlog of evidence. The middle sibling is pretty much already pre-planning for a few years in residential care. My younger brother is scared, but angry too. I'm fairly certain at this point he has fairly bad depression and an eating disorder, both of which aren't addressed. So I'm going to talk to my foster dad and basically present it and give him an ultimatum. I don't want to lose him. But if stuff doesn't change or he makes a single move against me, I have the independent reviewing officer in my contacts and I will call her. I might do anyways. But I'm scared. Update 2. A couple months ago I made a post about my foster mother's way of handling my trauma response to seeing in the vicinity of babies. Basically, I 17M have an extreme trauma response to babies ranging from breakdowns, dissociation, and panic attacks depending on situation, and it was caused by childhood events that landed me in foster. I'm here with an update. A few people had asked for updates a while ago under the original post. Here it is. After that initial post there was a major argument where my foster mom attempted to blame my fear on myself, saying I was doing it to attention seek, and after that she said I would no longer be allowed to see this side of the family. Conveniently, last week when they were visiting family, my foster mom arranged an orthodontist appointment that meant I couldn't go. In complete honesty, a blessing, because whilst I really want to see my grandparents still, I didn't particularly want to go through what had happened the previous holiday again. I was left behind with my uncle. My old college spoke to my independent reviewing officer sorta like an outside social worker who isn't meant to side with either the parents or kids from my understanding, a sorta neutral person. There was stuff my carers were telling workers in meetings that wasn't correlating with what my college had been told by myself, so they reported it. My little sister also reported some stuff, so in the end I didn't bring up issues, it was others around me. So today, the IRO came to speak to me alone. I reported all the baby situation stuff, and discovered my carers have in fact been suggested to take therapy training to help me handle my trauma, but had turned it down, believing they didn't need it. I also reported some other stuff as well. I now know my options, and in 5 months I turn 18. I believe the best option now is for me to move out at 18, which will be financially supported by the local council and social services. I currently don't have a proper job because my national insurance number hasn't been sorted yet, so no one will hire me, but I should be getting it in the next few weeks. Hopefully then I can get a job which will help with moving out. From what I understand, with my situation the local council will cover rent if it's under £90 per week through a social housing scheme, then I get about £75 a week for food and stuff. If I want somewhere with a higher rent, I cover the costs. I'll also be getting universal credit once I turn 18. I believe a part-time job will be best to make living more financially comfortable even with the monetary support though. But yeah, update. Sorry it's been a while, and thank you to everyone who commented on my original post with help and sympathy. If anyone has any questions I can answer them. Hopefully things will get better now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, at least she will be on record for being horrible and hopefully no more kids will be placed with her. Good luck. Reply, I don't think she'd take more kids anyway, she's a family guardian so she's biologically related to me and my siblings and has expressed before she never actually wanted kids and took us in out of guilt. But at least yeah, in the small chance she tried taking in anyone else, it'd be refused. Commenter 2, firstly, where is your social worker in this? There is semi-independent accommodation similar to shared flats that you can be referred to. Your IRO's job is to ensure that everyone in your professional network is doing their job. If your SW won't refer you, speak to your IRO. Second, do you know the name of your foster carer's supervising social worker? I really think a standards of care investigation needs to be started on your FCs, they are not equipped to meet your needs and are not keeping up with training by actively turning it down. I consider therapeutic training and trauma training to be basic training for FCs. When do you turn 18? You'll be allocated a PA then who can probably help navigate housing more. Your local authority is your corporate parent and they must accommodate you and support you until 21. This sounds like an awful situation to be in, and if a young person came to me at work with you've posted, immediate action would be taken. I've been working with foster carers for 8 years in England. DM me if you want to chat more. Reply, I currently don't have a social worker, I have a manager covering for a social worker, she's on maternity and he's away on annual leave. My carer's supervising social worker is on sick leave and we've only just been assigned a cover, can't remember her name. The IRO is contacting her about the situation though. I have the contact details from my PA but I've never actually spoken to her. She was meant to turn up a week ago but never did and isn't responding to messages. My IRO is gonna chase her up too. I've heard about semi-independent, but don't you have to move out of it at 18? I turn 18 in January, I'm not sure if there's any point moving twice in the next few months. Commenter 3, wow, your foster parents have no business being foster parents. They shoot down efforts to help you thinking they know better, which they don't. And you know they get money for taking care of you, to them you're just a warm body. What crappy people. Well, it sounds like things are going to turn around and you're going to land on your feet, and that's good. Get therapy when you can, hopefully sooner rather than later, and sure it's going to take a long time and a lot of therapy, and I wish you best of luck. Reply, yeah, and my foster mom since making the post said she might be forced to charge me rent when I turn 18 because they'll be given less funding to cover me. If I'm gonna have to pay something either way, I'd rather live by myself. OOP on his siblings, and if they are okay. Younger sister has been mentioned in prior posts. Reply, both siblings are in my household with me. My sister I believe is planning on going into some kind of semi-independent living once she's 16. I was never given the option because everyone thought our living situation was fine. She hasn't considered herself a part of the family for a while now and isn't home often. I'm not sure what will happen to my little brother. Update 3. Aita for getting angry at my foster mother's way of fixing me. Hello again. I 17M about foster mother F39. She just had her birthday and foster dad M40. The mum of a friend reported my carers for everything. My carers are now under an investigation. I had a manager come to the house yesterday and ask for my point of view on the allegations. I was completely honest and told them everything. The baby phobia treatment in great detail, but also transphobia from my foster mother and other things that had happened. The worker then told them the allegations from my mate's mum apparently legally they have to. I begged the worker not to do that because I knew it would end badly. My mate's mum knew a lot of what was going on, so it was basically as if they'd told them what I'd said. They suspected immediately that it was myself or a friend of mine who had reported them. They, or at least, my foster dad, since he gave the speech, genuinely don't think they've done anything wrong. It makes me feel like I'm going crazy. They think I've been lying to my friends to make them look bad, that I'm manipulative and hateful. They told me how financially they hadn't planned for me to do an extra year in college, so now don't know if they could afford me. I ended up dropping out of college in my first year and just did AS levels because of mental health issues, a suicide attempt. Also my next 2 years of college are free. They said they only ever did what was best for me and my siblings. There was a lot in there, and I tried to record it but only got the first 5 minutes before my phone cut it off. I went out after that to my mates who had reported it, and her mum said she'd watched my living circumstances get worse and worse over the last 2 years and decided it was beyond getting better for me and my siblings now. I came back near midnight-ish, didn't speak to my carers at all. This morning they barged into my room at 6 a.m. because my brother confirmed it was information from me that had led to their investigation. They told me I'm going to ruin my siblings' lives by getting them taken away from this house, that I'm destroying the family, going to make them homeless. They said I owe them understanding after over 10 years of living with them, but where was the understanding for my baby phobia? They know the circumstances of me being here and my trauma. They asked if I was planning on moving out. I said yes, soon as possible. To be honest, I'd always planned on moving at 18, although to a uni as far away as possible was the original plan. Then my foster dad went on a thing about me lying to them, causing difficult situations, and he said he'll try get the move-out date as soon as possible. I feel bad for my foster dad because I genuinely loved him, but if he can't even see that they've done anything wrong, then maybe I need to cut him off too once I'm out. I'm scared financially for my future. I think that's everything. We'll update when I know more. As always, feel free to ask questions. Also, it was my AS results day yesterday and I got all A's. Top comments. Commenter 1, they can't afford you. You know that as a foster parents they get quite the amount of cash for your upkeep. Some for any other foster siblings you have. I know what I say will sound cruel, but seems like you all are cash cows for them. Of course they are scared now the stench is in the air. If social services will deem them inadequate to be foster care, they will remove any children from their care, and with it, monies. Depending on the council they can get anywhere from £170 to £299 per week per child. Everything depends on child's needs. Wouldn't be surprised if they got higher pay on you because you are classed as special needs as you have trauma. They would also be able to claim any other financial support as careers. Edit to add, because I just learned that info, OP, they will never allow you to go to gender-affirming care because you will be then working with real therapist and the gig will be put. You can go to GP and as a person without your foster careers. You can let your GP know that you do not consent for your parents to have access to your records. Commenter 2, please carry on studying. My AS results spelt the word dude, getting all as is really impressive. Also, being a teenager is hard. I turned my dude into a master's degree and now work at uni. Commenter 3, congrats on your results. I hope you get offers from the uni you were hoping for. Be sure to call or email and check with whatever uni you get into if there's additional services available with students who don't have family financial support, as well as on-site mental health services. Often there'll be free counseling on site who can refer you to something more specialized, or at least give you a letter as evidence to back up your need to be referred over. I'm sorry to say that your foster dad has been complicit in your abuse all along. OP, sitting back and doing nothing is enabling abuse. Now he's being held accountable. He's once again enabling his wife by making out anyone else is the problem except for her/him. Because owning up to the fact he allowed abuse to happen means he'd have to accept he's scum that never should have been allowed custody of kids. For a lot of people, their personal perception of themselves is more important than the welfare of others. Keep in mind that this is their failing, not yours. Keep being honest and open with social services/the authorities. Make it clear they also let you down by not monitoring the foster family better. Also emphasize how much you've been targeted and blamed as a direct result of the manager/worker's approach, meaning you were left in an unsafe environment open to further abuse. It might be worth looking into applying for PIP as soon as you're 18, a lot of websites online describe what it's like, so please see Citizens Advice or talk on the phone with someone from CA for support. A lot of the time simply answering the questions isn't enough, you need to elaborate on things that are considered common sense but only implied. If you qualify, you'd get over £700 a month from that alone to help support your excess needs too. It would also mean you qualify for extra funds/assistance with universal credit each month. Added to whatever the council offers for foster kids aging out, hopefully it could give you the support you need. You owe your abusers nothing. They were paid and willing to accept the responsibility for raising traumatized kids. They were offered access to resources for years to help those kids. Instead, they prioritized their selfish wants and money. Those kinds of people shouldn't be foster carers, ever. They're lashing out for being exposed, when all they could have done to avoid this is be decent and do the bare minimum. None of that is your fault. Stories number 3. Aita for missing my sister's wedding because she asked me to take off my engagement ring for the ceremony. I 25M was in an abusive relationship for about 2 years. It started when I was 17. The fact that it began when I was still living at home has made my relationship with my family really complicated. I hold a lot of resentment towards them for not pushing harder to help me. I'm working through it in therapy. I've been with my partner 27M for 4 years. He's my best friend. It's so much more than a romantic relationship. This is someone I trust more deeply than I've ever trusted anyone. I feel truly safe with him in a way I haven't felt since I was a kid. We got engaged a little over a month ago. My partner and I RSVP'd yes to my sister's wedding months ago. I knew saying no to attending the wedding would likely be the end of my relationship with my sister, and I didn't want that. I am low contact with my family, but I'm not trying to burn those bridges completely. I'm still just working through how to have successful relationships with them while I'm still carrying this hurt. The wedding was last weekend. My sister hosted a dinner the night before that we were invited to. We hadn't made any sort of formal announcement to my family about our engagement, and we didn't plan to. When my mom saw my ring, we shared a genuinely heartfelt moment where she was crying a little and telling me how happy she was for me/us. It felt like a step in the right direction in terms of reconnection. She finally made some acknowledgement to the fact that I could have genuinely died from the situation I was in. After dinner, my sister asked me if I could take off my engagement ring for the next day. I asked why, and she said it was embarrassing that her brother had stolen her spotlight at dinner and she didn't want the same thing happening at the wedding. I was pretty taken aback by this. I said no, I wasn't comfortable doing that. We went back and forth for a little while until I just bowed out, saying I wished them well. Today, my sister sent me a long text saying I had ruined her wedding because I upset our mom. Stories number 4. I bought a horse out of state. There's a chance the horse they sold me is not the horse I bought. Bought in Texas, shipped to Hawaii. I bought my mare in 2022 out of state. I had a vet go look at her in my stead, she passed the exam, and I had her transported. She didn't handle the long travel well, so the first 2 years were focused on health and rehab, not so much paperwork. Originally the prior owner said her papers would be shipped with her, but that didn't happen. I did check the registry, and she is definitely registered but still listed as owned by the breeder I bought her from. In the last 2 years I have reached out to them to try and get her registered ownership transferred and get her papers shipped to me. The first 1 to 2 times I received no response, the third time I was told one of the owners had passed and that was the reason for a lack of communication. They said they would look for her registration papers and bill of sale and have them mailed. They said they found the paperwork and shipped it, but it has been over a month with nothing arriving. I reached out again to see if it had been shipped and to possibly receive tracking info in case it had been lost in transit, but again, received no response. At this point I get the feeling I'm not getting her papers from them and will reach out directly to the IALHA to see if there's any way to get ownership registration transferred as well as her papers through them. I expect it to take some time, and likely some fees, but just wondering how likely it is that I might just be shit out of luck. I know issues with getting a horse's papers can be common, so feedback would be great on what I can expect. Update Post 1. I'd like some feedback on this letter to my Mara's prior owners. I bought her back in 2021 and when she arrived, she was in bad condition due to not handling the far travel well. Because of that, my priorities were getting her back into good health and less concerned about paperwork. When I reached out the next year about her papers I never got a response. I was originally told her papers had been shipped when I bought her. Then life changes and moves happened, so again, I dropped the ball and didn't follow up. I reached out again this year and the person who responded let me know the original person I had spoken to had passed away, but she would look for the paperwork. The next day she found the papers, sent me a photo, and I sent my address to have them shipped. 3 months later nothing has arrived. I reached out again and got no response again. At this point I'm ready to just go directly to the association and see if they can help me get her papers, as I get the impression these people don't have any real interest in sending them. I had mentioned this to my mom and she recommended giving them one final chance to do the right thing by sending them a letter with a pre-addressed envelope to myself with all postage required for them to as easily as possible send me her papers. Then, if they still don't comply, I go over their head to the association. I feel like their reputation is pretty important to them to uphold, as they are even a sponsor of the association, so I want to give them a chance to do the right thing before potentially tarnishing it a bit. Feedback on this situation is appreciated. Letter transcription. Dear, I hope this letter finds you and your family well, and that your show and breeding season has been successful. I know how hectic life can get between sales, breeding, and shows, so I wanted to help take some of the small tasks off your plate by sending you a pre-addressed envelope for, redacted, paperwork to be shipped. I'm unsure if you had your hands full and it slipped your mind, or if it was sent and lost in transit. I had sent a follow-up email on May 17, 25 about it but never got a response. If it was shipped and lost in transit, then guidance on how to get it reissued would be greatly appreciated. Alternatively, I can reach out to the IALHA directly to get assistance if that simplifies things for you. Additionally, I reviewed the 2021 email correspondence I had with, redacted, and saw in an email on August 3, 21 she mentioned, redacted, had been microchipped. However, I never received that paperwork or received confirmation if the chip ownership information was transferred to my name. When I checked the IALHA registry recently, redactor's ownership is still listed as, redacted. I wanted to get clarification if I need to pay any transfer fees to you to have ownership changed, for both the microchip and registration, or if that is something I can do on my own by reaching out directly to IALHA and the microchip company you used. I greatly appreciate your guidance, if you have the time to lend it, so that I can get these loose ends on her purchase tied up. The original email I communicated to through was my persona email, but I can also be reached by my business email, redacted, and my phone number is. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Best wishes. Top comment. Commenter, this is way too long and there are no paragraph breaks. Take out all of the unnecessary information. Keep it short, like 3 sentences max. Get straight to the point of asking for the papers to be put in the self-addressed envelope and mailed to you. I live in Hawaii. I bought a horse located in Texas. She was advertised as a registered filly with the breed association. Vet cleared her, so I bought her and had her shipped to Hawaii. She looked well bred, and on arrival she was definitely the same horse as advertised, not a look-alike. During the purchasing discussions I was sent a blank bill of sale. I signed it and sent it back for their signature, but they never signed it and sent it back. So all I have for proof of purchase is our emails saying I sent payment and them saying it was received. They said the bill of sale and her breed association registration paperwork would be shipped with her, but that did not arrive with her. I emailed them a few times about having it shipped. 3 times they claimed they would ship it but nothing has arrived and they've stopped all communication. Her breed association requires registered horses to either be branded or microchipped. She has no brand and the vet has been out with 3 scanners with no chip to be found. When I checked the breed association stud book, her name is listed as registered and also listed as still owned by the people I bought her from. I'm going to get her DNA tested to confirm identity, but at this point I have to assume they either put her chip in a different horse to pass that one off as her, or they lied to me about my Mara's breeding and registration status. I want to know if I can pursue any legal action over this or if it would even be worth it. I spent $4,000 on her purchase and around $7,000 to $8,000 to have her shipped here. I'm concerned that not having a physical bill of sale will hinder my case as well. Given the distance between states and the cost of lawyers, I worry the legal fees will outweigh any monetary reimbursement if I win. I had planned to breed her, making her registration with the breed association increase both her and her offspring's value. If she's not registered and ineligible to be registered due to lineage not being accurate, that's a lost investment. To add, I love this mare very much, and while her not being registered would be an investment loss, I would never sell her or even send her back for the true horse I was supposed to buy. I have every intention to keep her for the rest of her days, but I don't want these people to rip off anyone else. It's the principle. Sum of comments. Commenter 1, not a lawyer, but someone who went through similar. This sounds like a London Bridge. You could have an attorney contact a private investigator. Find the previous owners through an independent search and contact them directly. Find where the horse was shipped from. Find where the paperwork the vet used came from. Contact and confirm wrongdoing with federal authorities. Wait for the case to close and guilty parties to be identified and prosecuted. Sue for financial compensation. It takes a while, years, and you will probably break even, but you will know that no one else will go through what you did. I would guess the horse is of some lineage by dam, but the owner/employee/handler could not confirm the sire due to some live cover disarray. Reply, not sure what a London Bridge is, but I at least have most of the info. The previous owner who I bought from is also the breeder. I know who they are and have been in contact with them. It's only recently they stopped all communication after I stopped being so polite with requests to receive her paperwork after 3 years of patience. I hired the vet independently to look at her as I didn't want to use their personal vet. I was afraid of their personal vet lying about any issues to move the sale along. Hawaii is very strict about importing animals, so everything was pretty thorough on that end. I also know where she was shipped from since I was the one to arrange all travel and shipping from the breeder's farm. She was 2 years old and I was the first owner after the breeder. I suppose I'll look into the federal authorities. I've just heard so many stories of dodgy dealers getting away with dishonest livestock sales, so I've been hesitant. However, this breeder is supposed to be highly reputable, so starting an investigation might be easier compared to a backyard breeder with no records. Plus, reputation is everything in horse sales, so the negative attention might urge them to get it sorted quickly and quietly, or go the opposite and have them trying to counter-sue for BS defamation/libel. My only other concern is the distance between states. Would I contact lawyers in my state since as the purchaser I live here? Or would I contact a Texas lawyer since the breeder/seller is based there and horse purchased there? Or would I have to do both? Commenter 2, not a lawyer, but if the DNA doesn't match, you could take them to small claims court in Texas. Luckily for you, the purchase price is relatively cheap and easily falls under the small claims threshold. You're likely out shipping cost though. Reply, oof, and the shipping is the part I'd want reimbursement for. But it's something to consider. If I had to attend court in person, I'd likely just take it as a lesson learned. If I could attend court through video call, I might consider it. Probably best to see if I can just get a consultation with a Texas lawyer. If the DNA does match, then I'm not sure how to proceed though. I don't know if I could take that to small claims court. The association requires branding, or they send a microchip for implant upon acceptance into the stud book. Since her name is in the system and if the DNA matches, then where did the chip go? I can't guess why they'd implant it in another horse to pass off as her. It just raises more questions. The whole thing is fishy. Commenter 3, did you check her lip for the chip or only her neck? Did the vet scan both sides of the neck down to the shoulder and forearms? Reply, they checked for lip tattoos and found none. They scanned her whole body in case the chip migrated from her neck and found nothing. 2 universal chip readers in case the first was malfunctioning, and then even tried a cattle scanner but still nothing. Vet's face was like this grimacing face afterwards. Commenter 4, are there any licensing requirements she has to follow? Does the breed association have anything like the AKC conflict disputes? That's going to be your best bet, as you said litigating this multiple states away isn't going to be effective. Reply, I reached out to the registry yesterday to see about conflict disputes, but the helpfulness of the association tends to vary breed to breed. I've heard that some breed associations won't help at all and you're just SOL. Others will help you and you can circumvent needing to involve previous owners as long as you have the necessary proof of sale and a DNA match, brand, or tattoo to prove ID. Not sure if by licensing you mean breed standards. If so, I'll have to submit DNA, which will have to match broodmares and sites already registered proving breed. I'll also have to send photos of her so they can approve her conformation falls within acceptable standards, and then they'll also run her DNA for genetic/hereditary diseases as they don't want those passed down. For this association, typically the previous owner signs an ownership transfer form on the back of the registry certificate and submits it to officially have ownership transferred in their stud book. Not sure how flexible they'll be with that due to the uncooperativeness of the prior owner. Update post. It took a week for the breed association to reach back out me, and what followed is what I hoped would happen. They requested all email correspondence and paperwork I had regarding the sale. The breeder I bought the horse from is a board member of the association. I had a feeling bringing this dispute to the breed association board would likely cause the board to approach the breeder to ask what was going on. I figured one of two things would happen. Either the breeder would realize they had to ship me her paperwork, or it would damage their image/reputation, which is everything in the horse world, or they'd panic and try to spin some BS about theft or fraud requiring me to take things to court. Fortunately, the first scenario was the result. The board had approached them about the situation and I got the papers in the mail in a few days. Funny how after 3 years of asking and finally ghosting, this was all it took. I had reached out to a lawyer while I was waiting to hear back from the association, but they were out of office due to the birth of their child, so I had been waiting for their return. Since I got the papers before the lawyer got back to me, I didn't end up needing to pursue legal action and accumulate lawyer fees, so I'll take it as a win and a lesson to only purchase in person from now on to get the papers directly. Update: so I reached out to the IALHA for assistance getting her papers. The breeder I bought her from is actually on the board, so I hoped by reaching out to the association they would be pressured to finally send the bill of sale and IALHA registration certificate. Well, a week after reaching out to the association, her papers and bill of sale arrived in the mail. I'm guessing the other board members approached them asking what was going on with this situation, and they realized it didn't look good on their reputation to continue to withhold the papers after selling the filly nearly 4 years ago. I'm not blameless, I shouldn't have dropped the ball on getting her papers and been more adamant about receiving them sooner. They also could have actually sent them the 4 to 5 times they promised they would / did though. Needless to say, I'm happy with the outcome and glad I'll never have to or plan to buy another horse out of state. Stories number 5. I think my new landlord is schizophrenic and I'm running out of money. For background, I 29F have been really struggling with depression and grief for the last 1.5 years since my mom passed away. I ended up quitting my job about 2 months after she passed because my mood swings were unpredictable and I had received a large sum of money from the sale of my late grandparents' house. I moved in with my brother and his fiancée for 3 months, and it was incredibly toxic. I ended up going into an inpatient mental hospital and they threw me out and changed the locks. I stayed in an Airbnb for 2 weeks until I found someone who was willing to rent to me while I technically had no income. I'll call her Susan. Susan called me very excitedly after I responded to her listing on Craigslist. It was a half-duplex, 3-bedroom with a front porch and yard for a very reasonable price, so I was excited too. I drove an hour to meet her and tour the apartment, and I loved it. It just needed a good cleaning. I ended up signing the lease the next day and she chatted with me for over an hour. She's 67, has leukemia and her husband passed away a few years ago. She has a son that lives a few states away and doesn't talk to her very often. She seemed to switch topics rapidly, but I just figured she was older and lonely and was excited to be talking to someone new, so I didn't think anything of it. Cut to a few days later, I moved in the day before and I hired cleaners. She had been trying to clean the place herself, but her idea of clean and my idea of clean are very different. Plus she shouldn't be doing that kind of physical labor. I had told her about it already and she seemed grateful and promised to reimburse me. The cleaners arrived and she starts screaming at them. I told you to never set foot on my property again. You have 10 seconds to leave. I came out on the porch and tried to calm her down. I said, Susan, these are the company I hired to come clean, and she turned on me. I told you what she did to me and you hired her. Am I going to have to evict you next? I spent the last week cleaning and you hire cleaners. It's a slap in the face. Just bonkers. The owner of the cleaning company came to try and reason with her, and eventually she let it go. They cleaned very rushed because they were clearly uncomfortable, and Susan was pleasant with me the next day. A couple days later, I wake up to a flashlight in my window. Susan is outside with 2 cop cars. By the time I put on pants and came downstairs, they were knocking on my door. The cops asked to come in and speak privately, and they said that Susan believes I was in her bedroom. I obviously wasn't, and they basically said, well, lock your doors and if anything happens call us, gave me the incident report number and left. The very next morning I wake up to her pounding on my door, screaming at me. I opened it and recorded a full 5 minutes of her screaming at me about conversations that never happened, things like me demanding food and demanding a repairman. She taped an eviction notice written on a doily on my door, and tried to wrestle my phone out of my hands. I called the cops on her. They came and told me to change the locks. She can't evict me without going to the courts, and told us to keep our distance. Since she has a key to my apartment, I put a heavy air conditioner in front of the door that night, and when I woke up it had been pushed in about a foot, so now I have a chair wedged under the knob. TLDR, I just moved into an apartment 6 days ago and my landlord is completely senile. Cops have been called twice. I have no income, but I have about $7,000 saved up in good credit, but most property managers require proof of income. How do I find a safe and clean apartment to move into ASAP with my limitations? Also, how do I keep myself safe from a neighbor that hallucinates me breaking the law and being mean to her? Breaking my lease after 8 days due to paranoid schizophrenic landlord. My main questions: can I get my money back? Can she take legal action against me? I moved in on July 10th. I signed her 2-page lease for 1 year and gave her $3,300 at signing first, last, security for $1,000 each plus $300 for trash for the year. In just the last 8 days, she has accused a cleaner I'd hired of being someone who broke into the apartment and stole an air conditioner. This woman had never been to this property. Accused me of being in her bedroom, calling the cops at 3 a.m. They spoke to me, told me to keep my doors locked and call them if any issues arise. Let herself in at night while I was sleeping, and I'm 100% sure she stole my keys, but I can't prove it. $600 to change the locks and get a new key fob for my Subaru. Called the cops, but she wouldn't answer the door, so they said there was nothing more they could do. Just call a locksmith and try to bill her. Multiple nights she's pounded on our shared bedroom wall between 2 and 4 a.m., lasting up to 30 minutes, screamed at me for conversations that never happened. She seems to think I've demanded she give me food and yelled at her about repairing the attic stairs. Neither of these happened. Physically assaulted me by trying to wrestle my phone out of my hands inside my apartment. Called the cops on this one too, they're issuing her a citation, however. She's been stealing my mail. I finally set up a camera and I'm going to catch her tomorrow. I'm tired of wedging a chair under my doorknob at night. I'm tired of being woken up in the middle of the night. I'm tired of being scared to leave my cats home alone. I'm tired of this costing me so much money, moving twice, changing the locks, buying a camera, paying to start a second lease at a new place. I'm broke and I'm pissed. I can move into a new apartment as early as Monday, but I'm unsure how to proceed. Can I write a letter to her asking to give me my money back, or else? Or else being legal action? Or should I go straight to getting a lawyer? Please help. I've been out of my mind anxious this entire week. Suspected landlord of stealing my mail, so I set up a camera. Unfortunately I didn't get any today. She didn't even check her own mailbox, man. I can't sign up for USPS informed delivery because I'm pretty sure she stole the change of address confirmation letter with the code I needed. Video transcript, camera angle shows a covered front deck, showing view of two entryways that are side by side. A bicycle leans on the railing, neighboring houses can be seen in the background. A bare-footed woman with hair in a bun on top of her head exits one door, wearing what is clearly a tank top/shorts pajama set in white with butterflies on them. She goes directly to the mailbox by the other door, lifts the lid, looks inside, and then returns into the door she exited from. The clip is short, only 5 seconds long. Update: I have proof my landlord stole and hid my keys. What now? Today, Susan asked me to have a chat with her on the porch. I started recording. First, she apologized for her behavior, saying she was without her heart medicine for 8 days and that's why she was acting crazy. But then she went right back into being rude. She told me changing the locks was illegal. A cop literally told me to. I said, well, now you'll have nice new locks and I'll give you the keys when I leave. She said she doesn't trust me, and she needs the original key back. So I said I can't, my keys went missing. And then she admitted to taking them and throwing them on the porch by the fish tank. The fish tank was gone before my keys went missing. Later she showed me that they were in a bush in front of the porch the whole time, and I recorded this too. But here's the problem, I asked her when she took them and she thinks she took them out of my hands. This never happened. She also thinks she took them because she was mad I changed the locks, which obviously wasn't the case. I changed the locks because my keys were missing. What can I do here legally? I have video of her admitting to taking them and hiding them and also video of her digging them out of the bush. But she's insane and doesn't have good memory, it's her word against mine about when she stole them. I'm 100% sure she came in at night and took them. She claims she took them out of my hands. Stories number 6. My friend said I should block a guy for complimenting my hair. Here's what happened. So I, Rachel, 41F, have been dipping my toes back into the dating pool after being divorced for a couple of years. Honestly, dating in your 40s is not for the weak. It's like, you've got apps, you've got rules, you've got people telling you don't settle but also don't be too picky. It's exhausting. Anyway, I matched with this guy online, let's call him David 41M. From the start, he seemed like a great catch. He's local, which is rare for me because I feel like everyone I meet is 2 states away, well-educated, decent job, actually cute in his pictures, and based on our chat, he seemed funny and respectful. That's already more than I can say for half the profiles out there. So we were texting back and forth and early on, he says, I like your hair, the color is so pretty. That's it. Just that. My hair is kind of a deep auburn with natural curls, and honestly, it's one of the few things I've always felt confident about. I thought it was sweet that he noticed something unique about me instead of the usual bland hey sexy messages. Well, I mentioned this to my best friend, Megan 42F, because she and I always debrief on these dating app guys. And Megan straight up tells me, you should block him. I was confused, so I asked why. And she goes, one of the rules is that men shouldn't start by complimenting your physical traits. It's love bombing or objectifying, and it means he's already focused on your appearance instead of who you are. And I was like, wait, what? He literally just said he liked my hair. He didn't comment on my body, he didn't say anything sexual, it wasn't creepy. But she kept insisting. She told me that if I didn't block him, I was basically being a pick-me who's too desperate for male attention. She even said I should have higher standards. Like, what? First of all, what rules? Who made these? A guy noticing something unique about my appearance is suddenly a red flag. Don't women also complain when men don't notice things like our hair, nails, or outfits? It actually made me second-guess myself because I've been out of the dating game for a while, and sometimes I wonder if I've missed the memo on these new standards. I called my other friend Jessica 39F to vent, and even she said Megan was being harsh. Jessica was like, that's just a normal compliment, Rachel. Don't overthink it. But now Megan's not letting it go, she's saying if I keep talking to David, I'm setting myself up to be used, and that I'm showing I accept the bare minimum. And I'm sitting here thinking, maybe I just liked the fact that a man said something kind to me without it being gross. For context, David hasn't love-bombed me, hasn't pressured me, hasn't said anything sexual or weird. We've been talking about work, books we like, and even our favorite coffee shops. He seems normal. And maybe that's rare, but isn't that a good thing? So now I feel like I'm stuck between my instincts and this weird new standard that my friend is throwing at me. On one hand, I don't want to be that woman who ignores red flags. On the other, I don't want to sabotage something that could be good just because some rule says guys aren't allowed to compliment your hair. Like, is it really low standards to appreciate when a guy is kind and notices a detail about me? Or is my friend being way too extreme here? So, Aita for not seeing this as a red flag and actually liking the compliment. Update, my friend said I should block a guy for complimenting my hair. Here's what happened. So a few weeks have passed since I made my original post about David 41M, the guy I met online who complimented my hair, and my best friend Megan 42F telling me to block him immediately because men shouldn't comment on physical traits. Honestly, I didn't expect so many people to chime in and validate what I felt, that it was just a normal, sweet compliment. But I wanted to come back with an update because things actually moved forward with David and also, things with Megan got messier. So after posting, I kept chatting with David. I trusted my gut instead of following these random rules my friend was throwing at me. He never once said anything creepy, never pressured me, and our conversations just flowed so naturally. We decided to meet in person at this coffee shop downtown. I'll be honest, I was nervous, not just because first dates are nerve-wracking, but also because Megan had drilled it into my head that I was about to walk into a disaster. But you guys, he was exactly who he said he was. He showed up on time, dressed nicely, not overdressed, not sloppy, just put together, and when I walked in, he smiled and said, "Wow, your hair is even prettier in person." And instead of feeling weird about it, I actually smiled because it was genuine. We talked for 3 hours straight about work, favorite movies, childhood stories, even travel goals. He wasn't glued to his phone, he listened, asked thoughtful questions, and even remembered little details from our earlier chats. There was zero pressure, zero red flags. After the date, I texted Megan because she had been pestering me all week, "Are you seriously going to meet this guy? Did you at least background check him? Do not be stupid, Rachel." So I told her it went well, and she got cold. Like, instead of being happy for me, she sent this passive-aggressive message, "Well, enjoy being a man's doormat if that's what you want." I didn't even know how to respond. Meanwhile, David and I kept seeing each other. A second date turned into a third. We went to a local bookstore, then dinner at this little Italian place, and honestly, I felt more comfortable with him than I have with anyone in years. He's respectful, doesn't rush things, and he hasn't once made me feel like I'm just my looks. He actually brags about my job more than anything, which makes me laugh because most guys in the past have been intimidated by my career. But here's the thing, Megan kept escalating. She told Jessica 39F, my other friend, that I was lowering my standards and ignoring red flags. Jessica finally snapped back at her and told her she was being toxic and controlling. That started a whole side drama because now Megan says Jessica is enabling me. Last week, it all came to a head. Megan and I went out for lunch, and she flat out told me, "You're too desperate for male attention. That's why you're falling for basic compliments." If you keep seeing this guy, don't come crying to me when it ends badly. I told her that just because she's bitter about her own dating life doesn't mean she gets to ruin mine. That didn't go over well. She stormed out of the restaurant and hasn't spoken to me since. On the other hand, things with David are going really well. We're taking it slow, but he's been nothing but consistent and thoughtful. He even brought over dinner one night when I was sick, and sat with me watching cheesy movies instead of running off. He makes me laugh, makes me feel seen, and for the first time in a long time, I'm hopeful. So yeah, maybe I'm the pick-me in Megan's eyes. But honestly, I'd rather be happy with someone who treats me well than stay single just to follow some imaginary rules about dating. If a man telling me my hair is pretty is the worst thing he does, then I think I'll be just fine. Backhand index pointing right, so that's where I'm at now. Things with David are progressing. Megan and I might not stay friends if she can't let go of her weird standards, and Jessica has actually been super supportive. Funny enough, the one who called me a pick-me is the one losing a friend, not me. Final update, he just liked my hair, and now everything has changed. It's been a few months since I last updated about David 41M and my so-called friend Megan 42F, who told me to block him over a hair compliment. I wanted to close this out because a lot has happened, and honestly, I feel like I'm in such a different place now. So, first things first, David and I are officially together. It didn't happen overnight, but the more time we spent together, the more it just felt right. He's consistent, he's kind, and he follows through on his words with actions. He never once played games, never made me feel like I had to earn his attention. He's shown up for me in ways I didn't even expect, like fixing little things around my house without me asking, sending me funny texts in the middle of the workday just to make me smile, and treating me like an actual partner. I didn't realize how starved I was for that kind of stability until I had it. Now, about Megan, well, that friendship is done. After our blow-up lunch, she sent me a long message basically calling me pathetic and saying that if I wanted to settle for crumbs, then I deserved whatever heartbreak came my way. She also made some pretty nasty digs about my age and how women over 40 shouldn't waste time on men who only see them as desperate. That was the last straw for me. I blocked her number and took her off social media. It hurt at first, because we'd been close for years, but when I stepped back and looked at how she's treated me, I realized she wasn't a supportive friend at all, just someone who wanted control over how I lived my life. Meanwhile, Jessica 39F, my other friend, has been amazing. She's hung out with both me and David and actually said she hasn't seen me this happy in years. She's been gently calling Megan out too, which caused some drama in our friend group, but honestly, I'm done babysitting grown adults who want to police other people's relationships. The funny thing is, Megan has since gone on a couple of dates herself, and guess what? She told Jessica that one of the guys complimented her dress, and she didn't block him. So apparently the rule she threw at me doesn't even apply to her when she wants attention. That made me feel like all of her advice was less about protecting me and more about projecting her own bitterness onto me. As for David and me, we're still taking things slow in the grand scheme, but we're making plans now, weekend trips, meeting some of each other's extended family, and just building something steady. I'm not rushing into anything like moving in, but I feel secure with him. He's not perfect, he leaves socks on the floor, and he has this habit of over-explaining random facts like he's auditioning for Jeopardy, but he's mine, and he makes me laugh every single day. Looking back, I'm honestly relieved I didn't listen to Megan. If I had blocked David over one innocent compliment, I would have missed out on what's turning out to be one of the healthiest relationships I've ever had. And that's the part that stings about losing Megan. She wasn't rooting for me, she was rooting for me to stay miserable with her. So yeah, this is the final update. David and I are happy, Megan and I are done, Jessica is still a solid friend, and I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is trust your own instincts instead of letting other people set rules for your life. At the end of the day, I'd rather take a chance on love and be wrong than let fear and bitterness make choices for me. And for the record, my hair still gets compliments from David, and I'm still not mad about it.